Hi, my name is Lorraine Watry and welcome to my studio. I am a watercolor artist and I've worked with watercolor for 26 years now, and I thought I would start a new series of videos where I go over different tips, tricks, and techniques for working with watercolor. And hopefully these short videos will help you in your journey, and if you have a question or a technique that you would like to see, please comment below and I will try to accommodate that in a future video. This watercolor tip and trick video is going to be a continuation of the snow techniques that I did in the last two videos. And as you can see, I have the bird that I had masking tape to mask the bird. I have removed the masking tape and I am going to start putting paint on those areas. And in the second video of the techniques, I showed how I splattered masking fluid and put some of that snow, the feeling of snow falling onto the bird and the branch and all of that, so that it would mimic what was going on in the background as well. So I am going to talk about some aspects of the snow. I will not be showing the whole painting, and I'll just kind of skip through some of the processes. And as you can see on the branches, the upper section of some of those branches, I added snow. My image doesn't have snow on all of the branches, and I wanted it to feel a little snowier. So now I am going into the snow area that is on the pine needles, and I am using a variety of color, but mostly in the blue purple range. And I had cobalt and some quinacridone rose to make a purple or a blue purple, and then I also had some cerulean out for making a little bit of turquoisey areas. And as I am doing these areas, I am sometimes placing the color down and then coming back and softening an edge here or there, and then other times I will kind of place some water, like right in here. I'm just placing water kind of randomly on the paper, and then as I place the paint in those areas, then it will have both hard and soft edges, and having some of that softer edge feel on the shadows on the snow makes it feel somewhat more like snow. So as you can see in the enlarged view here, it's a little bit blurry, unfortunately, but the shadowed areas I'm working on, I am kind of following the image. I am looking for places where there are form shadows, which is where the snow kind of rounds and curves, and that makes it feel like it's not flat to have those form shadows on there. And then there will also be some shadows that are happening because of the pine needles, like right there, that are sticking up out of the snow. And so I am going ahead and putting on those shadows now, because then I can come back later with the pine needles and place some of the pine needles over, if I have to, some of that shadow color, and it will still be dark enough to cover. And I am really trying to go around the pine needle, so it won't be an issue, but you could, depending on how light or dark your shadows are, you might want to go around your objects like the pine needles or whatever else it is, or you can sometimes just place the color on there and then paint your object on top of it. So I'm continuing to add color to those areas, and in some places, like I said, it's on dry paper, and then some places I will add a little water in a few places. But the whole object of the snow, that area, is basically dry, and I'm just wetting here and there where I need it. Now, the other way you could do this is to go ahead and paint the pine needles on there and then paint your shadows around the pine needles. And sometimes when you're trying to figure out where you are on a subject, having that object, whatever it is, painted on there and then painting the shadows around it can be helpful as well. And I am not quite following completely the photograph, so I've added a few areas of snow down in this section as well. And nothing except for the snow falling is masked on the painting anymore. So some of this goes a little slower because I am having to paint around certain objects and shapes. And it is, it can look like this color is quite dark, but then as I start to add the pine needles and everything later, it won't feel as dark as it may right now. So I continue working on the snow area, and I want to get most of that, the shadows in on that. And I am leaving the lightest part of the snow that is sunlit, I'm leaving that pure white. And then up on the bird, he actually had put his beak down into the snow, probably to get a little bit of water from the snow, and he came back up with snow around his beak, and I just thought it was pretty funny and took a photograph. So then I decided that I wanted to add a little snow on his head as well, and in that little part, I was adding just a little bit of shadow to the snow around his beak and on his head, and I was also making sure to leave some of the whites. And then on the snow on the back area, I am basically making up those shadows because I didn't have it on my photograph, but I knew that the upper right edge was kind of where the light was coming from. And then I am now going back and softening some of those edges. I'm using a flat brush with a little bit of water, and I'm going back and just adjusting some of those upper edges, not maybe every one of them, but a little here and there, and that softer feel will make it feel like it's a little farther back, and it also helps with the feeling that it's snow and that it's not really hard-edged. And as I get more color on in different parts of the painting, I may decide that some of the shadows on the snow are not quite dark enough, but I would rather start with it being a little light, and then as I get darker values in there, then maybe I will go back and adjust and strengthen the shadow value on the snow. So I have started the bird, and I will not be basically talking about the whole process for the bird, but you can kind of see different aspects of it, and I am focusing on getting the first layers on the bird at this point, and just kind of basically placing color where I can see it on the photo, and giving myself information. So these areas will also get layers again and be darkened. And in that area around the head, that is something that often happens with snow, where you basically are negatively painting around the lighter shape. And so around the snow on his beak and on his head, I used the value of the feathers, the darker feathers, to basically make that lighter snow pop out. And I did have those shapes drawn on the bird, so I could tell where I needed to paint around. And then I'm just slowly going back and adding layers to the bird's feathers and adjusting the values here and there. And then another thing to note for snow is that when you have clumps of snow, like are on the branches, you will often have a shadow under the edge, and that will help give that snow some form and make it less flat looking. So I am going back in this area and adding some shadows. I don't want to outline every edge under there, so I'm just picking a few areas here and there, and then skipping some places, and softening some edges also, so that it doesn't have too much of an outlined feel to it. I will continue this bird in one more video at the end of the month, and I will show you kind of how the painting is finished, and then I'll remove the masking fluid that I still have on the painting. And so these are just a continuation of the processes of painting snow on watercolor, and just different methods that you can do that. And just kind of finishing up some of the feathers on the bird and going back and adjusting values here and there. And I do have a online snow class coming up, and if you check my website, all the information is there. That'll start in February, and that one is a landscape. I hope this video was interesting, and if you have any tips, tricks, or techniques that you would like to see, please leave a comment below and I will add that to my video list, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.